Speaking of using your time not wisely, Chris, you have seen Mufasa. Can
Sadly, I have. Yes.
Eloquent words, exactly what a lot of people were thinking. Naturally, not everyone will find this gimmick funny or entertaining, but many people do, and that's perfectly fine. I think there are a lot of things to enjoy about the content of his videos. I mean, for a person who hangs out frequently with people like Geeks and Gamers and Eric July, who don't really seem to know much about film as an art form.
There are a lot of people, I'm sure, who have their own take on YouTube critics, or people simply just giving their opinions. With the internet being such a vast place filled with countless topics and beautiful things to discuss, it makes sense that creators like Critical Drinker, Friendly Space Ninja, Alex Myers, and many others have their own opinions on movies, games, and any form of entertainment. I created this channel to share my opinions and passions, whether they lean positive or negative. Now I understand that some people hate YouTube critics or anyone who is critical of anything. However, in this video, I'm going to try to be nuanced in discussing YouTube criticism, whether it's about games or pop culture in general. Over the past few years, I don't know if you've noticed, but Hollywood and the gaming industry seem to have lost their spark. Creativity appears to have been replaced by greed and corporate monotony. Franchises have grown so large that they no longer feel the need to innovate, and as a result, we're not seeing as many movies, blockbusters, or AAA games resonate with audiences like they once did, unless they're coming from overseas. So it's not that people are hating on everything for the sake of hating. The issue lies in the fact that something essential seems to be missing clearly from Western entertainment. There's been a societal shift that has directly impacted the quality of entertainment. I've talked about this topic time and time again, but for those who are watching me for the first time, this may feel fresh. For my longtime viewers, it might sound like a broken record, but still one thing is undeniable. People are more critical of media than they've ever been. And on this channel, while I've explored different types of content, I particularly enjoy poking fun at things, even things that I like. That's just who I am. I love to laugh, but I understand how it might seem like I've been focusing on the negative. Here's the thing, when something is trending and a lot of people are talking about it, of course, we're all gonna be curious. We wanna join in on the discussion, and before we do, we'll wanna check it out and give our take. When it comes to movies, that might mean watching one to review it, or probably explaining why we chose not to watch it, or even critiquing its marketing. The reason why so many YouTube critics seem overly harsh these days is very simple. A lot of things today genuinely deserve the criticism. Hollywood is failing. And it's not because people are being mean for the sake of being mean. If that were the case, these same people wouldn't embrace entertainment from other countries. Yet we see audiences flocking to content from places like Korea, China, and Japan. Countries that haven't yet been overtaken by extreme political correctness or stifling creativity. Yeah, that could change someday, but for now, this is the reality. When millions of people, including those who aren't terminally online, are skipping these movies and games, they're not interested, they're losing interest, it's very clear that this isn't just about a vocal minority. The majority of people simply aren't investing in these products anymore. This isn't just a few YouTubers pointing out flaws, it's a widespread issue. There are clear common denominators that explain why people have stopped financially supporting these once beloved industries. It's worth noting that this whole narrative about YouTube critics being problematic didn't start gaining traction until traditional media critics outside of YouTube became irrelevant. And why did that happen? Because people stopped caring about what some disconnected expert at a major publication had to say and started valuing the opinions of regular people who actually experience the media the same way they do. Before YouTube, it was all about word of mouth, friends, family, or coworkers sharing their thoughts. YouTube is just a massive extension of that, where anyone from anywhere in the world can chime in on the discussions. It's more democratic and a lot more far-reaching. YouTube critics are actually essential because they provide honest feedback that resonates with audiences. The fact that they have all these massive followings and a lot of people who are subscribing to them proves that people trust them far more than corporate-backed review outlets or platforms like Rotten Tomatoes, which have lost credibility because of review censorship and obvious pandering to big studios.
So the critic and audience score-related website, Rotten Tomatoes, which curates reviews from some of the top critics of film as well as audience reviewers of films, and they compile them all together and give it a rating. And one of the few not stuffed shirt critics on there is Matt from Matt Movie Reviews. And Matt and I are friendly with each other. I have gone on his podcast a couple of times now. He's a really cool guy. And listen, we don't always agree on a movie. He didn't really like Reagan as a biopic. I thought Reagan was good as a biopic. That's just how it is, how it goes. Sometimes you disagree. But no disagreement on the merits of a film should get you censored. That is what happened to him related to Rotten Tomatoes. They decided that they were just going to cut him off off that all of those reviews that he wrote that got curated on the website were going to be taken down. And I think that this is abhorrent on more than one level, which I'll get to in a minute. But first, I want to bring you what Matt had to say. He writes, "This morning I received an email from the Rotten Tomatoes critics team that read, 'In reviewing your recent portfolio of work on Rotten Tomatoes, our team has concluded that your current reviews do not meet our criteria for tomato meter approval. As a result, I am no longer a Rotten Tomatoes approved critic, and all of my reviews listed on RT 18 years worth have been removed. To add insult to injury, I cannot reapply until March of 2027. I'm not sure exactly what reviews in my recent portfolio have led to this expulsion from RT. My most recent reviews include a negative one of Conclave, which is distributed by NBC Universal, who also own Fandango/Rotten Tomatoes, and a positive review of the Matt Walsh documentary, Am I a Racist?'
So, as Studio Jake pointed out in that clip that I just showed, Rotten Tomatoes seemed to allegedly scour that guy's reviews from the internet, seemingly because his reviews simply didn't align with the studio's ideals or agenda. And this kind of censorship completely undermines the entire purpose for why people leave reviews in the first place, which is to offer honest, diverse, and independent opinions on media. I mean, art is there to be interpreted. Reviews need to reflect the spectrum of genuine audience reactions, not just the ones that align with a particular agenda or ideology or make the studio look good. If people can't trust the reviews that they're seeing, the credibility of the entire platform comes into question. And once you lose that trust, it's very hard to take the ratings or opinions seriously, knowing that there is this agenda lurking behind the curtain because it deletes people with a specific type of perspective, but it doesn't delete those with the opposing perspective. And that's why platforms like Rotten Tomatoes face so much skepticism, and frankly, they're gonna need to do better if they want to regain that trust from the audience, but I already think it's too late personally. But YouTube critics end up filling that void, giving the regular people a voice, especially those whose voices would have been censored in platforms like this where you're supposed to leave reviews, not just through their own videos, but also in the vibrant comment sections where audiences can engage directly and share their thoughts to the creator, just put it out in the ether with each other. So the influence of YouTube critics is very important. YouTube critics also undeniably hold gaming and movie industries accountable. When games release in a buggy, unfinished state, or when movies rely on lazy storytelling and overused tropes, these critics shine a spotlight on the flaws, or they criticize it, or they make fun of it. Their feedback forces creators to rethink their approach, and this leads to better quality products in the long run, as it always has. They say what many people are already thinking, but can't easily express in traditional spaces, and that's why they're needed, especially when you have platforms like Rotten Tomatoes that are scrubbing people's reviews. Now, are there some people who might come across like they're just hating for the sake of hating? Yeah, sure, I guess, but even in that, there's some entertainment to be gleaned. Sometimes it's just fun to watch someone roast something. That being said, if a product is genuinely good, one person ranting or several few people ranting about how terrible it is won't hurt its success. Why? Because the proof is in the pudding. If the general reception to a movie or game or show is overwhelmingly positive, then one loud critic isn't going to sway the masses. People will see through the noise and buy into the product anyway. The reason why critics like Critical Drinker attract such massive audiences is because they're already articulating what so many people feel. They're voicing the frustrations and disappointment that large portions of the audience have been bottling up. If the majority of people didn't agree with him or feel similarly, then his content wouldn't resonate. In fact, a lot of people would likely turn on him and dismiss him as being ridiculous or overly negative, but that's not what's happening. Instead, his critiques amplify all the shared concerns that everyone has, and that's exactly why people keep coming back, or the majority of them keep coming back. There is this really undeniable disconnect between professional critics and the actual general audience, especially today. And it's not really hard to see why audiences are preferring YouTube critics or people on podcasts, because they want real feedback. More so, it could just be a simple matter of Critical Drinker or people like him being more entertaining than what people try to pass for entertainment nowadays. I mean, that could be it too, but I think the main issue is that traditional media platforms and professional critics always come out feeling as though they're out of touch with the people who actually consume the content. So instead of listening to their audiences and taking constructive criticism about beloved franchises, many of these outlets have doubled down attacking fans for daring to voice their concern. We've seen countless articles like this one labeling fans as toxic or entitled simply for wanting their favorite movies, games, shows, franchises, whatever, to stay true to what made them great in the first place. See, here's an example here where this article said in this paragraph, based on the entitled actress getting upset that people didn't like it and broad stroking everyone as being prejudiced because a few stupid people said something ignorant. Meanwhile, the rest of the populace just did not like the show. And it said, in other words, The Acolyte was the latest high-profile target of toxic fandom, the catch-all term for when fan criticism curdles from good faith dissatisfaction into a relentlessly negative, often bigoted online campaign against either the project or its stars or creative leaders. In a franchise economy increasingly dependent upon established audience devotion to drive the bottom line, the threat of toxic fandoms poisoning that enthusiasm has become a seemingly intractable headache for almost every studio, and it's only getting worse. And it's funny that they will come out saying that fans are behaving bigotedly, specifically because these fans will call out these articles' own display of bigotry. And as a result of these articles being called out, they then double down and somehow become even more bigoted in their response. Make it make sense. The thing is, instead of respecting the word of mouth feedback from the people who have been keeping these industries afloat, they just dismiss or vilify their audience. This obviously has served to create this massive divide between those who are supposed to deliver entertainment and the people who are consuming it, and the creators who are expecting people to use their money to consume. It's not even like you're giving it to them for free. So YouTube critics have stepped in to bridge this gap. They are providing a platform where fans can voice their frustrations and concerns without being silenced or ridiculed or demonized. These creators don't allow industry professionals to just brush issues under the rug and pretend, oh, everything's fine. The audience's dissatisfaction can't be hidden when YouTube videos are racking up millions of views and sparking all of these lively discussions in the comments and forcing other people to also make more of these videos as well. This has forced the industry to confront its laziness and lack of creativity, and I'm sorry, it's greed. Because once upon a time, studios and developers, they were putting so much effort into creating original and really compelling content, things that were filled with passion, and now it feels like many have just become complacent and they're relying on brand recognition and all these regurgitated stereotypical ideas in order to just rake in profits. YouTube critics, by holding them accountable, have blown the lid off the mediocrity. And guess what? The industry obviously doesn't like it. It's much easier to just keep churning out all this lazy, uninspired, monotonous content than to take the risks necessary to actually make something creatively, something truly original, as they've been doing for many years. Ultimately, YouTube critics are necessary because they give audiences a voice that can't be ignored. And as a matter of fact, if they try to ignore it or censor YouTube critics, it's a lot harder to censor someone who has been putting out videos or as a channel than it is to censor a bunch of text on a platform. These YouTube critics ensure that companies face the reality of their declining standards, and they force them to either step up to the plate and to change things, or just continue losing the trust and money of their fans. Anyway, that's my opinion. What do you guys think? Do you think that YouTube critics actually hurt society? Do they help? What do you find to be advantageous out of watching YouTube critics?